I'd like to go back to how we arrived at the funding winter, what are startups and all, so it gives more context. कि हम यहाँ पहुँचे कैसे? Why are we in a hot country like India? Why are we in a funding winter? Or globally also, right? So now, I mean, I'll keep my why very short and succinct in terms of now startups, you see, by definition or by convention have generally been, called as technology companies now, as is the convention since last 15, 20 years, and we followed Silicon Valley and China and other mature ecosystems. Now, a startup is something which causes large scale disruption, is easy to scale, and is also technology enabled. So that's the VC conventional definition of a startup. Okay. Now, with that assumption, how did we land in the funding winter? Now, during COVID, of course, it was a very painful period for everybody globally, especially, and in India, let's say, when our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, announced the closure, nobody expected it to last for the time that it lasted, including total closures, right? What happened with that is everybody was forced to go online, and rapid adoption of technology. We were basically doing everything on our mobile screens or computer screens, right? We were forced to everything, buying groceries, medicines, doctor appointments, meetings, work meeting, everything was online. Now, what happened because of that? A lot of innovation was also required in services which were prior to that period offline, right? For example, doctor appointments, buying medicines, many other things which require a touch and feel or a personal experience. But everybody was forced to go. Now, all this activity required innovation. Innovation required funding, right? And all these startups that are defined as startup, and technology is something that you can leverage to scale and reach a mass. You can't do it with conventional companies. Now, innovation required funding. Of course, funding was available, it always is, and a lot of money started pumping in. See, in any economy or economics, it's always a game of demand and supply, right? Now, the demand for capital, was just too much at that point. Supply was limited. Having said that, people were innovating, but still, I mean, there were a limited number of people who were ready to, ready for the challenge of creating innovative solutions across sectors, across needs. Because the demand was so heavy, investors started pouring in lots and lots of money at very unrealistic valuations, right? Because it was kind of a FOMO. I mean, in the VC startup ecosystem, we like these acronyms: unicorn, funding winter, FOMO, the fear of missing out. No, VC inherently is a very risky game. Now they wanted to get on the bandwagon and start funding these companies. And that's why we had these irrational valuations, irrational fundings. If somebody needed $1 million, they were getting $10 million. And it was happening globally. But of course, in India, our ecosystem is not mature. Now, COVID, you have to understand, is a black swan event. Black swan events generally don't last forever, like the financial crisis or the recession. Go back in history, 1920s depression in the US. They generally last for maximum 2-3 years and it dies down, which happened, right? Now, when it happened, which has happened over the last 12 to 15 to 18 months, now people started going back to their normal lives, which is an offline world or an omni-channel world. It is not that somebody who was forced to go online is staying online. So now we have a situation where the supply is extra of all these companies, all these innovations, and the demand is not there. Now, demand is not there in terms of users who are using these services and paying for that. And globally, because of geopolitical tensions and everything, the war in Ukraine and other things, there is a recession or recessionary trends. Interest rates have gone up, and that's why VC capital, VC funding started drying up, which is what is called a funding winter, right? The winter is theoretically when everybody goes into hibernation mode. Like in many cultures, animals go there. They dig burrows deep under the ground, and humans itself prepare for a funding winter. I mean, we have this famous series Game of Thrones, where they, always say winter is coming, and they prepare for it. But unfortunately, here, not enough preparation was done. So you see a lot of things in terms of mass layoffs and also these startups, especially in